Lots of these stories in our news review. Let's start with Gulf news. President Trump on the front page because he's embroiled in a bitter legal battle with the American legal system. As we've been telling you, a federal appeals court on Sunday refused to reinstate his travel ban on people from 7 mainly Muslim countries.
Well, in a television interview with Fox News, President Trump spoken of his respect for Vladimir Putin when the interviewer pushed the issue, saying the Russian president is a killer and that he didn't know any government leaders who were killers. Mr. Trump responded, "We've got a lot of killers. What do you think our country is so innocent?" That's a quote from him. That's in Arab News.
The Independent's front page has the French far-right leader Marine Le Pen launching her presidential campaign in Lyon. She attacked Islamic fundamentalism, telling supporters in the city that if she's elected, she's the only one that can protect them.
Financial Times says Chinese overseas deals worth almost $75 billion were cancelled last year. Collapse was attributed to regulatory clampdowns and restrictions on foreign exchange coming from Chinese authorities. The International New York Times looks at how some Chinese companies are making headway in the manufacturing of smart weapons. The paper says Beijing is seeking to reshape warfare by bringing artificial intelligence to the battlefield. And finally, The Guardian takes an in-depth look at the situation in Greece with its economy. The paper says the country's economy has shrunk by more than a quarter, equivalent to last century's Great Depression in America. And we begin our week with Cornelia Meyer, aren't we lucky? CEO of MRL Corporation, a business consultancy. Good morning, Cornelia.
Good morning.
So you've been telling us that you've watched every single political program that was broadcast in the United States over the weekend. How much was about this Trump versus judiciary, as Gulf News puts it?
It was maybe 40–50%.
Big. It's really big.
It's really big, and it's very interesting. And the interesting thing is when you see the court that has the Court of Appeals that has rejected the executive order of Mr. Trump, so that people still come in, is in Washington State. At the same stage, another district court on the East Coast said he could go ahead. So this is bound to get to the Supreme Court because they don't like it when district courts contradict each other.
But also because it seems, a professor of law was telling us earlier, that it seems as if the constitutionality of this executive order has not yet been decided upon. That is surely going to be the key.
That is absolutely going to be the key. What's not helpful is the whole rhetoric of Mr. Trump, going out there in a bad moment on Twitter saying a so-called judge. It shows a disrespect for the checks and balances of the system, and I think that's what got so many people in America hot under the collar.
You work a lot in the Middle East, and we've had reports off the back of this executive order to get the feeling of people around the Middle East, which is a big area. A lot of them are saying he wants to destroy Islam. Do you think that people in the Middle East overall are judging the order in that way, or are they looking at it, okay, we can understand the concern of President Trump?
No, they cannot understand the concern of President Trump, and they think they're clearly, on the basis of religion, discriminated against. And you would not believe how many Trump caricatures I got over the weekend from my Mideastern friends. I mean, it was just a back and forth. So people are very concerned, and there's also a national security concern for the United States. They're fighting wars. They still have people on the ground in Iraq. They need to work with those countries. And saying, oh, they can't really vet, well, there must be other ways around it. But you're putting your own men in danger if you do things like that. And you're putting what America is all about in danger. And what is very worrisome is when you look at all this plethora of executive orders, they go out there without the care and deliberation that go into laws and policies, and they replace laws and policies. It's scary.
Well, let's have a look at Arab News, and we're staying on the same thing, same theme, as it were, because this is actually quoting an interview on Fox News between President Trump and one of their key journalists.
And Bill O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly was a very attacked-off journalist. Of course I watched that one.
Arab News gives us its take on the interview. What's your take on it?
I was actually very surprised that Bill O'Reilly, who is sort of to the right of anything I know, was so tough on Trump. And, Fox was very friendly to Trump.
Because, hold on, but you see, the thing is, that's what the hardcore Republicans can't understand. They, in their psyche, given, you know, most senators are of a certain age, they lived through the Cold War.
Yeah,
Russia's the big enemy. They don't get this Trump thing with Putin.
On one thing, yes, one needs to come to understandings with Russia, one needs to work with Russia, but what he said here was really quite outrageous, because he took Putin's narrative. I mean, you know, he's the commander-in-chief, the president, and the advertiser-in-chief for the United States. What is he saying to the world? We're going out and killing people? This is clearly you know, it's a democratic country. He can't take the narrative of his adversary. It's not a terribly clever thing to do, is it?
Interesting.
Yes, yeah.
Well,
He mentioned going into the Iraq War and referring to George W. and, you know, I mean, not by name, but, you know. Okay.
Well, let's talk about this French politician, Marine Le Pen, who's hoping to cash in on the wave of Trump, as it were, and ride that wave in France. The question is, can she ride that wave? Is there a similar feeling in France?
There's a very similar feeling. She's riding it. She's, you know, she's from her father, Mr. Le Pen, was even more right wing. She can write it, and one thing that that was really working for her is that François Fillon, the Republican candidate, who was, everybody thought, oh, he's sort of the savior. He will get us out of getting Le Pen elected. He has a scandal involving a payment to his wife and his 2 children as his staffers and overpaying them. So with Fillon Gate, she's in a better position. But you know, there's Emmanuel Macron, who is an independent, who came out, and one would usually say, oh, it's very bad if you're independent, if never run a campaign. But you know what? In these days, that may be an advantage.
We'll see. We'll keep an eye on it.
April, first round. So what's going on with China? What's the FT's take here?
Well, it's quite interesting, actually. This is this report that I was just talking to one of the authors of the report from Baker McKinsey, talking about how, you know, foreign investment coming from China into the rest of the world. And there's 2 ways of looking at this. Huge amount of money invested once again in 2016. But quite interesting, the Financial Times looks at the huge amount that was blocked, that wasn't invested, that was intended for investment, didn't happen for various reasons.
And you look at it, and as your previous guest very aptly said, you know, there's part of it that was blocked because the Chinese said, well, we can't have that much money outflow. There's no strategic rationale. And then some of it was blocked because in Germany, in the US, companies said no. But then there were some very strategic deals that went through. I would like to mention the Syngenta deal. You know, that gives China the ability to control nearly 30–40% of seeds. That's quite big.
Syngenta?
Syngenta is an agricultural firm that does seeds and things like that. So it's a very important sort of agricultural chemical firm, and it went through, and we discussed it here actually. It even got U.S. approval. It needed U.S. approval because it has such a big business also in the States.
Okay, David, Director, do you mind if we just skip the New York Times? Because at the end of the day, we've talked about AI a lot on this in this particular segment. If AI is going to be part of weaponry, that's, you know, just a natural progression.
The Chinese are hiring people from Silicon Valley.
Well,
so that's
of course, yeah. I mean, you know, China wants to lead the way in everything. Why not? Where is Greece at the moment?
Well, Greece at the moment is in a very difficult spot because, as you said, Sally, 30%, 25% or 30% shrinking of economy. You see real fallout, pensioners who are really struggling. People are going through their savings, which doesn't help.
Let's not forget, they've got a huge number of immigrants.
And they have a huge number of immigrants to deal with. And then, so you have Tsipras trying to fight it for the Greek people. Then you have the IMF and you have Europe, and the IMF being a little bit more stringent than Europe. But you don't know what will happen also. Trump comes in here again. Because with Trump, he can actually block decisions of the IMF. If the IMF says we want to be more lenient, he can block it.
Well, I was going to say, because actually the IMF's being more friendly to Greece. They want to restructure the debt.
Yes, it needs to be restructured.
It needs to be restructured. Will really battle to pay it back in the current agreement that they have. But Europe actually has been the tougher.
Europe has been tougher. The thing is, Europe also, but Europe, you have to see, Europe is very much driven by Mr. Schäuble, the German finance minister, and he is coming up for elections. And in these elections, they say, we have paid so much to Greece, enough is enough. And what this article says, and where they're right, they need to come to some more solutions before the onslaught of elections. We have elections in Holland, in France, and in Germany. And that can upset the apple cart again.
Cornelia, it's almost as if you're wearing an earpiece and listening to the count from the director, which is now at 5 seconds. So that's all time we've got. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Real pleasure. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Have a really good day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye-bye.